We've spoken several times before, but I don't know that I've actually followed you before. So let's see what we can do today. Actually, doomsday scenario is not a bad pivot here, because I want to talk a little bit about risk management. Anybody watch the show Doomsday Preppers? Absolutely love this show. I keep hoping they're going to bring it back, but check out this guy. He's very high speed. You'll notice on his chest rig, he's got a paracord tied to his magazine. So when he's maneuvering, as Obama's shock troops come to take over his property, and when he falls down, the magazines won't come out, and then he can do a quick reload. He's got a nice optic on his MiG-14. He's got his pistol right there, although he looks like he's right-handed, so that might be a difficult draw for him. I'm not exactly certain how much he's thought this through. But he's getting ready for Obama's shock troops. Maybe he's ready for the grid to go down and it to be the Hunger Games across the whole nation. In the show, this is what he's actually prepping for, an EMP. Probably from a Rogue Nation, maybe a solar flare that would do that, but that's what he's prepping for. But if we go back and look at our friend here, I'm not certain that if you look at his threat model, his risk management is pretty immature. He might want to be a little bit more concerned about lifestyle diseases. He's probably less likely to get shot by Obama's shock troops than have a heart attack as he's running away from them. He could have a stroke, definitely a type 2 diabetes candidate. He's not doing the things that he needs to be doing. His priorities are off. And we see that a lot, and obviously this is an extreme example, but in our lives we have this as well, and I'm going to make some analogies to the enterprise. But for lifestyle diseases, things that we do to ourselves, there's a lot of things we can do. It's not breaking news, right? Regular exercise, going on the treadmill, working out. Blood pressure, 120/80, keeping our blood pressure around that level. Limit our alcohol intake. Especially tonight, take it easy guys, especially anyone who has early flights tomorrow, like I do. Quit smoking. Smoking is not good for you, right? And it can lead to bad things. So we know these things, right? We need to reduce our stress. Now, you may not be a yogi like our friend here, but meditation, things like that. None of this is breaking news, right? Did I shock anyone with all of these health tips that I just gave you? No, of course not. One of the things that you'll hear a lot is just do the basics, and I just described basics. Now, let's start looking at how complicated our lives are. Me, when I was a forester, I traveled 3 weeks of the month for 4 years, basically. Do you think airplanes and hotels might complicate me successfully doing the basics? I had small children, still have small children. Do you think small children might complicate the basics? Or you have older children and you've got your minivan and you're taking them around all over the place. You're paying $6,000 to $7,000 a year for all of their club sports. Maybe it's dogs. Maybe you don't have kids, you have dogs. And as our friend Rebecca says, free as in puppies to describe animals, there's a lot of cost right there. Another thing, I am a Texan. And this, pound for pound, bite for bite, burnt ends is the best, and make this statement, burnt ends is the best barbecue bite that you can have. Well, I love barbecue. Cook it, eat it a lot. Covered in salt. Red beef, or red meat as well, right? So potentially not really healthy for you. Again, do the basics. What do you think the sodium, and I probably would eat all of those burnt ends. I have the rotation at home in Dallas. Come to Dallas. Paul and I have done this before when he's visited. Barbecue tourism. If you come to Dallas, tweet me. I'll take you out to different places. I'm happy to do that. I don't travel nearly as much now. One of the other challenges that we have is this better living through chemistry. We want a pill. We want magic to happen. I want to take something that's going to make me healthy immediately. Certainly the value in vitamins and things like that, but we go a little bit extreme. Speaking of extreme, what's a good talk without a Kardashian in it? I actually did a blog about this. I don't know if you know about this. There was actually a class action. Was it a class action lawsuit? It was a lawsuit against Skechers here because these shape-ups were supposed to tone your legs and your butt when you would wear them. And so they had to think that. I did a blog about this 4 years ago, and it was around ABT marketing and all the vendors that are selling you these magic ABT solutions. When you get compromised, are you going to get your money back on your investment? No, of course not. In some circumstances, in some individuals, they may be going to the hover chair. Anybody a fan of WALL-E or seen WALL-E? It's awesome. Also like Idiocracy. Some of the stuff in the movie Idiocracy also kind of lines up here. So, I think the point here is doing the basics is hard in our personal lives. Reality sets in. You have to make a conscious effort. If we switch to the modern enterprise, and let's start making some more analogies here. Here, your company makes paper. You go to conferences. We just got back from Black Hat. You're on the expo floor. You see all the latest and greatest new technology, and it's exciting. You talk to 20 vendors in a day. I hope you didn't talk to 20 vendors a day. When I was an analyst, I used to have to talk to probably 20 vendors a day when I was at RSA conference. Don't recommend it. Of course, I'm a vendor now, so now I'm on the other end of it. But we've got these conferences. The latest and greatest technology comes out. I don't use the term defense in depth. I use the term expense in depth because we just keep buying more crap. New technology comes out, ooh, boom, let's buy it. Training? No. People? No. We want the magic button that's going to solve all of our problems. It's the equivalent of that pill. Threat intelligence. I love threat intelligence. Paul was kind of talking about it. Co-chair the SANS Summit, former Army Intel. Love it. I don't call them indicators of compromise or IOAs. I call them indicators of exhaustion. Tactical threat intelligence overwhelms our staff. It certainly overwhelms our technology. We basically could end up doing, if you tried to apply all the indicators, do a denial of service on your proxies, on your firewalls, on all of your gear. Your endpoint starts smoking because you're searching for every hash in the entire world on the endpoint, that sort of thing. Now, a little tongue-in-cheek here, I do see value. I mean, clearly I bought into the threat intelligence piece, but easily for us to get overwhelmed. One of the things that really, really annoys me, going back to the basics, is when people say just do the basics. All you have to do is the basics to secure your enterprise. We know some of the things that we should be doing. The SANS Top 20 controls have been renamed now, right? Good guidance here. This one here, I did a blog about many years ago as well, and this is a target breach. This actually goes back to something that Rob was saying about people involved in these incidents, things that come out, it's not true. Target. If people are talking about something, they probably had nothing to do with it. They weren't involved in the incident response. It drives me crazy, the talking heads that get on, and suddenly you're an expert about something that you have absolutely no visibility into. Especially those that do incident response from consulting, you have NDAs. What would it do to your company, to your brand, if you started going off on like that? I really found this Target one annoying, this article on Bloomberg, because it was FireEye's fault. They didn't do it right. They had the alerts. Well, duh, they should have seen this. Really minimizes how complex a Fortune 500 global organization's operations are. And I get it. At one point in my career, I was the security guy. I was the IT auditor. And then I was the security guy. It's difficult. It's very overwhelming. It drives me crazy when people say just do the basics. If you follow me on Twitter, I like to call people out when they say that on these breaches. And I get being on the hamster wheel, right? As defenders, we're on the hamster wheel, right? We really, really, really struggle to get off of it. But what are we going to do? Are we just going to shrug and give up? How many people want to give up? Is that satisfying? No. I want to share a quote with you that I'm quite fond of from a great philosopher. I'll let you read it, and then I'll see if anyone knows who said this. Actually, I'll read it too, just in case you can't see it over there. Strength does not come from winning. Your struggles develop your strengths. When you go through hardships and decide not to surrender, that is strength. Does anybody know who said this? Sounds like Nietzsche. Not Nietzsche. Arnold Schwarzenegger, back when he was much, much younger than he is now. If you see me present before, I often try to work Arnold into my talks, just a little bit there. But we're not going to give up. And if you look back to the personal health analogies that I've been using, right? Traveling, although I did not work out this morning, hotel gyms. I make a conscious effort, especially at the beginning of a trip, at least the first couple days, I get a little bit better. By the end of it, you're like, oh, whatever. I'll eat whatever, drink whatever. You have to make an effort. Kids. Complicate. Beautiful creatures, complicate. Put them on you, wear them everywhere you go, do the things that you need to do. There. If you have older kids, just let them play Pokemon. And then go do whatever it is that you need to do. Hopefully they're not looking for Pokemon on Department of Defense facilities and things like that, which also comes up in the air. This one I mentioned I love burnt ends, so I try to limit the barbecue intake. When I do cook at home, salt-free. Now when I do have a steak, I still put salt on a steak and let it sit. I just can't have a steak without salt on it. It seems un-American. But there's things that we do, right, in our personal life. We know these challenges. Sometimes you get off track, you have to reset, but you know what you should be doing, and you go to that. You don't want to just surrender. We need to have a similar approach in the enterprises as well, so let's transition to that. I'm actually a little bit behind on Mr. Robot right now, but just quick raise of hands for those that watch Mr. Robot jump the shark this year. Pretty big. I'm one episode behind, but the previous one it's pretty big. But if you think of doctor's orders here for the enterprise, what would a doctor prescribe? And I like to use the Mayo Clinic site. Whenever there's something wrong with your health, family member's health, it's really bad to start Googling stuff, right? You find all kinds of crazy things. Mayo Clinic is one that I routinely look at. WebMD, Mayo Clinic, kind of understand what's going on, with a particular condition. So what I did is I took some of the things on the guidance they had, and I thought I would just play the doctor role and try to talk this through on the enterprise side. To talk about things that we should be doing, that we need to be doing. And a lot of this comes from, I think I've probably about 15 years experience now. Forrester was 4.5 years, so a lot of observations with working with Forrester clients, and now extending that with Digital Shadows where I work now. First up is treatment and drugs. The first thing, and probably the most important thing that we need to be doing is stopping and pausing and not buying into this. Now, how many times have you been to an event where someone says there's no silver bullets? Probably all the time. Yet, we want the silver bullet. We need the silver bullet, and I understand it, having been a practitioner. I worked in EDU as well, and that was really tough because we were open source everything. It's difficult, right? You have money, resources, finite resources. You want things to be easier. So I think it's easy to get kind of roped in to vendor marketing. RSA conference, Innovation Sandbox comes up. The next new, latest and greatest startups that are out there. It's very easy to get bought into that. But we have to stop that madness. One area I was going to ask about is, and we may not be there yet for some of you, how many organizations are planning for 2017 right now? Have you started looking at budget for 2017? So and actually, anybody investing in deception technology for 2017?
I think Scott is.
Yes, Scott and I had this conversation yesterday at lunch. Here's an interesting number for you. Now I'm a former analyst. I like to call a recovering analyst. Analysts are pretty cynical by nature. So I'm trying to be less cynical, which is actually kind of nice to not be as cynical as I was before. But here's from a research firm. The global deception market will be over $1 billion by 2020. Now to give you, this isn't necessarily apples to apples because these research firms, there's a whole game involved in this kind of stuff. But NSS Labs, for context, I saw some research that they had that were saying the next generation, how many people have next generation firewalls? Palo Alto in your environment? I don't know, third to half of the room, something like that. By 2018, the next generation firewall market is going to be $5 billion. So 2020, for deception to be $1 billion, that doesn't seem quite right to me. That seems a little bit overinflated. Gartner has put deception down as one of the top 10 technologies that we should be investing in for 2017. If you're looking at your 2017 priority planning, and once again, who has unlimited resources in the room? If you do, I want to come work. Actually, I want to come sell to you. Well, I'll give you a good deal. If you look at a sample priority list for next year, number 1 on the list, deception technology. Number 2 on the list, machine learning, whatever the hell that means. Who even knows? Number 3, multi-factor authentication on all your public-facing services, OWA, VPNs, things like that. Or even some of your SaaS services that are out there. Local admin rights and removing them from every single workstation in your environment. And then at the bottom of the list is training. If your target plans for next year are in this order, we're clearly doing something wrong. It should be flipped up. I think people, recruiting and retention is probably number 1, as many people that have talked today have talked about the analysts and the importance there. But I think use this as an opportunity when you're looking at 2017 and having input, whether you're a leader and you're the one that's doing this budget, or you're working with your leadership on your kind of wish list of things that are there. We need to think through this. We need to avoid expense and debt and just stop being a reoccurring victim. Victim's not the right word. We're doing it to ourselves. We've got to stop that. Where should we prioritize our investment? It's probably good. Just what space or what kind of capability, human or otherwise, what do you think should be top for 2017? Top investment 2017. What do you guys want to spend on?
Inventory and monitoring.
Inventory, people. I am a big Jason Bourne geek. I have not actually. I've been traveling quite a bit. I haven't actually seen the movie yet. I hear pretty good things about it. Yeah. Well, it's got to be better than the last one. I mean, that one was so bad. Jason Bourne is all about situational awareness. One of the quotes from the first movie is he's in a room, he knows where the exits are, he's got line of sight. I would be prioritizing things that give me visibility into my environment. What do I look like from the outside? How long can someone, the analogy I often use is the adversaries are in an environment going up and down all of the aisles, picking out, here's the IP, here's the PII, here's the PHI. Nortel in Dallas, almost a decade compromised. Incomplete incident response. After about 2 years, it failed. If you look at the different in-trend dates, and it's been moving down, right? When an adversary has over 100 days in your environment, they do a better job of data discovery and understanding our business processes than the defenders working in the environment. I always make this joke, we always say the perimeter is dead. The perimeter is not dead. The perimeter in between IT and security and business, and disaster recovery and business continuity, perimeter is up everywhere. As Winnie Matrix calls them, she calls them cylinders of excellence. We need to break these cylinders down and start partnering with our peers and get more visibility across these environments, understand what's important to them. Otherwise, we're just going to be repeating expense and debt again and buying, and then you'll end up, hopefully you're not Nortel. Maybe you're only in the environment for 5 months before you're able to find it. Until you pay a consulting firm a lot of money, Paul will come in and do the response for you. It would be very good response. I'm quite certain of that. So number 2 up is lifestyle. Kale, I love kale. It's right there.
The K is silent.
Kale. I like that. Actually, why didn't I get a beer? Drop it. I'm just kidding. No, I don't want to keep it anymore. One of the things here, so how many people would say they have they're hunted? Maybe your title not hunter, but you're doing something in your environment. A few hands. We're getting more proactive with that. If you haven't, actually, this report just came out, so I'm giving you a little bit of love, Rob. Rob David Bianco just published this SANS report. Actually, they have a couple different ones that they've published on hunting. Dark reading article from earlier in the year, right? We're hearing a lot about hunting, moving towards detecting the adversaries, things that we're actually getting proactive. There's not a lot of things that I think we're proactive in, but we're moving in this direction. The question I have is why limit it here? If you look at hunters, maybe you're not a 1%er, but you may be a 10%er, right? A lot of people are going to have to rely on service providers. They're not going to have the ability to even recruit and retain hunters that are out there. So I love the fact that we are getting more proactive and hunting the environments for that, but I think we need to expand where we're being proactive and not just trying to detect adversaries. And this is a leadership thing. I don't want to indict CISOs and say that we've been doing a poor job in security. We're just trying to stay above water. But I think there's a leadership opportunity for security leaders, CISOs, and their staff to do more, be more proactive in their programs. One of the things, the CISO needs help, right? Just like the defenders, they're just trying to stay above water. The CISO also is, especially as we're transitioning to more business focused, reporting up the chain of command, trying to have a better relationship with the executive team, that sort of stuff. The CISO needs help. Does anybody know who this is? No, Scott? We talked about it yesterday, so.
I knew who it was without you saying anything.
No, I know you did. I just didn't want you to. So this is Mara Jade from Star Wars, who officially became uncannoned.
Yeah.
However, if anyone watches Star Wars Rebels is introducing Admiral Thrawn. So there's a potential that she could come back into canon. Something to follow this analogy on, and then I'll explain it. Do we know who this is?
Yeah.
See what's on his on Tywin's little lapel pen that he has? He's the hand, right? Mara Jade is the hand of the Emperor. In her case, she's actually an assassin. Tywin's probably not that different than an assassin. He just has other people do the killing. But their job is to support the Emperor or the King, to be their right-hand woman, right-hand man. Of course, in Mara's case, there was other hands that she was not aware of. But we don't need to go down a Star Wars geek rabbit hole, do we? We can do that later. But we need a hand. The CISO needs a hand. We need the hand of the CISO. Now, you will see in very, very large organizations, large financial institutions, that sort of thing, where you might see this type of role. But I think we need, even in much smaller organizations, someone that is being proactive, that is the right hand. In some cases, it might be a deputy CISO. I don't even care what the title is. But someone that's being more proactive. And then I thought, I don't know, I think it's a funny graphic. It may not be the best analogy because I don't know that Will Ferrell's character would be particularly helpful in any type of operational task or strategic analysis. But it's still funny. One of the things, and some of this comes from my 6 months in running strategy for Digital Shadows, is I don't have operational responsibility. I'm able to look across our entire company, all the lines of business or the functions that we have, and try to optimize. We need those similar approaches in other organizations, right? There needs to be bandwidth. It doesn't have to be necessarily a leadership role. It could be. But we need someone that's not fighting fights. Just like the hunters are being more proactive and they're not SOC level 1 analysts and they have some time to do this, we need to look holistically at our organizations and look what technology is not effective. Where could we optimize on process? And try to get away from this expensive debt methodology that we've been using. Let's see, I think I kind of talked a little bit about this. There was one that I wanted to mention in particular. You're talking about optimizing. How many people have incubator programs in your organization where you have a path, a channel for your staff to bring up ideas and then implement them company-wide? Not enough. We just started rolling one out internally at DS. I really, really think you need to have this. You know, it empowers employees, especially the ones that are out there on the front lines. Maybe it is, we need new technology. We need something that's going to help automate things that's very manual for us. It doesn't matter what it is, but you're giving your staff the ability to have ideas, have some ownership in the outcomes of an organization. So you don't have to be someone in the Bay Area that has an incubator capability, right? Anyone can do this. It just takes time to manage a template on types of things that you would like coming in, and then you have maybe a quarterly Shark Tank session. Now Shark Tank kind of gets a little, Mr. Wonderful anyway, can kind of be a jerk. So you don't want to have a Mr. Wonderful character in your incubator, but have a way to generate ideas and empower and enable your staff so that you can make a change to the company. We've had some wonderful ideas come up from our staff. I think it's really, really good. So let's go 2017 again. So I was talking about 2017 planning and what you got going on here. Question I would have, how many people know what your business has planned for 2017? New technology that's rolling out, new geographies that we're going to operate in. Is anyone connected and actually know that? One hand is good. So right now, just as we in our little security bubble, and that's part of the problem, I guess, our cylinder of excellence, we think about our 2017 and we're going to roll out deception. I think we all agree we're probably not going to roll out deception, but we're going to roll out whatever the technology control is. What is the business doing? And what do we need to do to get better situational awareness into this initiative, to put technology in place to mitigate risk, just even have visibility into the risk? So what I would challenge you, and I'll wrap up in this as well, because I think this is a really key takeaway, is in your organizations, they may not have started 2017 planning yet, probably have, is find out what your organization is doing next year, and find out how you can support those efforts to reduce risk, get better visibility into risk so that you can be successful. Because we don't do security for the sake of security. We don't do intel for the sake of intel. We don't do incident response for the sake of incident response. Even if, and you don't have to be a for-profit, private sector company. If you're an agency, right? If you're a state agency, a government agency, you have a mission that you're trying to accomplish. What are the plans for next year and how do you align with them? And I think going back to the hand of the CISO, right, this could be a good opportunity for this person to go out there, let's break down these cylinders of excellence, understand what's going on. Having a relationship, that's Wendy's, not mine. Just, I want to make sure that's attributed to Wendy, not me. But there's a lot of, we've heard this in several talks today, of relationships, right? We need to have relationships so that there aren't surprises. You know, we don't want, because what's happening is AppSec, anyone that's involved in AppSec, right? AppSec comes to, oftentimes at the very end of a project, right? And we're trying to bolt on security at the end. DevOps is starting to have security in there and it's changing a little bit. But we're doing that programmatically. It's not just an application that's being delivered, it's whatever the business is trying to accomplish, security is finding out at the last minute. So we really need to be more proactive and understand that and start looking at what's going on. How many public companies, publicly traded companies, do we have in the room? So leave your hands up if you've reviewed your 10K annual report. So those of you that have heard me talk before, I talk about this. This is a very high level step, but the 10K shows the risks for your business. Even if you're a private company, you don't have a 10K because you don't have to produce one, but there's a risk management function for your organization. How connected are you to the risk management function? If you go through, this is targets. You could go through any of them. I was recently doing this with T-Mobile because they had a third-party breach with, I can't remember if it was Experian or Equifax, but one of the credit monitoring agencies, right? And if you look at T-Mobile's 10K, they talk about third-party risk for people that have their data sets. If you start working through a 10K, now by the time this is written up as a risk, you're already behind the game, right? Because these things are already happening. You want to know about this first. But if you want to start having a more engaged conversation with people outside of the security organization, the IT organization about what you're trying to do, the 10K is a good roadmap. You can go in and have an informed conversation. You can understand high-level supply chain risks, things that you're rolling out, and you start mapping what can we do here? What are the individuals, personas, people associated with whatever this is? What's the technology infrastructure that's being used for third-party monitoring? Remote access for people. I mean, it's really easy to go after a breach. Pretty much anyone that I've looked at when there's been an intrusion, if I go look at the 10K, they're probably already writing about whatever it was that just happened. So this is no panacea at all, but it's a starting place, and a lot of times we need a starting place to have these relationships. So I would say, again, homework here would be look at your 10Ks, know what's going on there, use that to inform a conversation with your peers in the business to think about 2017 planning. Alternative medicine. So here, beets. Anyone know the power of beets? If you have high blood pressure, beets can bring it down significantly. Beet juice is really, really good. Now you gotta be careful with staying in your clothes. It's a little, I don't know, pungent. But you can mix it in and Vitamix with other stuff. But this is something that you can do as an alternative to maybe taking, drugs, over-the-counter drugs, right? That maybe you don't want to do that. Or acupuncture. I've done acupuncture for back pain in the past, and I had some success with it. The back surgery I had actually was the most success that I had with my back pain. But look for alternatives to mainstream thought. And we have a lot of that here in our space. PCI as a classic example. I don't hate PCI. The bad thing about PCI is PCI, instead of being the bottom of where you start, it's become the ceiling. And we're just going to do whatever's required for PCI. We don't do anything beyond that. So there's lots of different things out here, but avoid that mainstream thought. Now there's a couple areas, and some of this will tie back into 2017 planning, but how many people here, as a leader, have asked this question or been asked, how do we stand up against our peers? It happens all the time. All the time. We want to know how we stand up against our peers. Well, let me just propose this. What if all of your peers suck? Your entire industry vertical is terrible at security. Are you aiming for terrible parity? Oh, we all have Fs, so that's great. So there is some value in relative knowing how you stand up against your peers, but if you just want to, again, what's the floor, what's the ceiling? A failing grade is not good, right? You want to think beyond that. So understanding what your peers are doing is good, it's important. But if all you want to do is just be on the same level as them and you guys are all terrible, this isn't going to accomplish anything for you. Another question I get, how much of your budget is dedicated towards security? Anybody had this conversation? We're trying to figure out what the budget's going to be for 2017. Really, 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 really key. I like to turn this one around. This is the absolute worst question. I hate this question. The first question that I would ask when it comes to budget is how are you maximizing your current budget? There's this, you'll see these verticals that are saying research like Forrester or Gartner, whoever it will say, oh, we expect retail security budgets to increase by 8% over the next 2 years. If you are already doing a terrible job, expense in depth of your existing budget, you're just throwing, good money after bad, right? What makes you think you're gonna do something better with more money? More money, more problems, right? So what I would say is when it comes to budget, how effective are you with what you currently have? Demonstrate the value there, because another piece, I always use this analogy from Office Space, 20 plus years old, the box. What would you say you do here? You get budget for a 7-figure threat intelligence program. You have this budget and you're like, this is awesome, we're gonna kill it, we're gonna crush it. Total bro about it too. And then 1 year later, your leadership comes in and say, what would you say you do here? What have you done with all this money that I gave you? How have you increased visibility? How have you reduced risk? How have you reduced time to detection or improved time to detection? Have the number of incidents gone down? Whatever measure. Most people don't have that. So what I would say when it comes to budgets is maximize what you've got already. Do well there, and then look for optimizing that, getting more money, making the business case for it. But more budget isn't going to mean more success. Could mean more complications for you. Okay, next up, coping and support. Anybody watch this movie? You gotta have probably kids for this. I watch this probably 5 times a week. My daughters, 2 and 4, love Wreck-It Ralph. They're making a sequel to it. I'm super excited about it. I love Wreck-It Ralph, especially like old school gamer people. Like there's so many Easter eggs in here with games, up, down, left, right, BA, start. It's awesome. I love this movie. Well, this is the bad anonymous, and it's, I'm bad, and that's good. I'll never be good, and that's not bad. So that's what they say. Well, we need coping and support. The one thing I would say here is, I didn't say eliminate alcohol. It's limit your alcohol. So it's still okay from a coping mechanism to have the occasional drink, right? Don't get rid of that. That is an option for you still. But when it comes to coping and working with other organizations, I think there's other things that you can do. And what would it talk me if you don't work David Bianco's Pyramid of Pain into it? Kyle, can you do it? The Pyramid of Pain! So you're probably familiar with this. And there's been a lot of focus. Pyramid of Pain is good, I like it. There's been a lot of focus, especially from DHS, on sharing of tactical indicators. If you attend the SANS Cyber Threat Intelligence Summit, we usually have, now it's going to be OASIS, someone talking, giving an update on STIX and PAXI, which is great. These are ephemeral indicators that come.
What's the top one?
Top one, oh yeah, I guess it's TTPs. It's TTPs, tools, network artifacts, domain names, IP addresses, and hash values. So the idea here is at the bottom, there's trivial for the adversary to change as you work your way up the Pyramid of Pain. If you have a better job finding out their TTPs, how they go about pivoting in the environment, how they do their initial intrusion, that is more valuable to you than an ephemeral IP address. It's easy to change, that sort of thing. If you're not familiar with this, I would recommend you take a look at it. It's good stuff out there. So there's definitely value at the bottom. It's not as great. I think you get more value when you work up to the top, where you're sharing TTPs, or you're just at events like this, you're socializing, you meet peers. This came up in the panel this morning, right? Getting in a Slack channel with maybe 4 of your competitor organizations, building up these relationships. Those things are really, really important. You'll get more value out of that, of sharing how you do your hunt process, than sharing a stupid IP address that the adversary is going to change next week, even if it's next week, maybe tonight. So I would say as another kind of take-home assignment, if you don't already have a trusted circle, it is like Meet the Fockers. You got to build your circle of trust, and a lot of people, you're outside the circle. You got to get inside the circle, start building these relationships up, know people, and focus way more on that than PAXI and STIX, which have their purpose, but you'll get much more value if you're actually sharing process. A good one, how do you recruit and retain? I did a submission for RSA, I don't know if it gets accepted for 2017. I'm very passionate about recruiting and retention of staff. So how about that? Those in the room that would think that you're effective at recruiting, share that with other people. Getting on the boards of universities to help them develop programs that actually graduate people that you can then train, right? I think these are much more valuable and much more strategic to the success of your organization than here's a shop or an MD5, right? What we want to avoid is we want to avoid this. Pulp Fiction, 22 years old now. Some people are on the path here. Now, if you've seen the movie, there's a little bit of argument about who's going to save her and who's going to use the needle to bring her back, right? Well, I've never done this before. I ain't starting now. You brought her here. That means you give her the shot. So we need to give the shot to our organizations, right? Be that agent of change. This is one of the, does anybody not know this scene? It's one of the most intense, probably seen. I don't know, I can't really think of another one. Is there just driving it down into her chest to bring her back, and then she pops out, and it's all dangling out of her chest. Meanwhile, the stoner in the background's like, cool. It's intense. Well, let's be this agent of change in our organizations. Let's resuscitate what we've got going on. Pardon the drug analogy. I'm not trying to say we're all OD, but I guess kind of I am to use that analogy. But, so, one of the things that I really like, has anybody spoken at the RSA conference before? So one of the things that RSA requires you to do is to wrap up with some very specific things that you can do. Suggestions of what you can do. RSA has like this week, or next week, 6 months and a year out, that sort of thing. So I wanted to just kind of wrap up with things that you can start working on right now, take back and actually implement your organizations. First, I already mentioned it, find out what your organization is doing in 2017, and then find out how you can get more visibility into that, help secure that, protect the business with whatever that particular goal is. 2, be proactive within your circles of control. In the book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, there's a concept of the circle of control and the circle of influence. Oftentimes we get wrapped up in the circle of influence. We don't have control there. It's equation group. It's, angry Unikitty. That's always the one I use if you get that joke, but that's my favorite for Dr. Group. We get all wrapped up in these things that we have no control over, and we waste precious time focusing on those things. Instead, look at what you can do, your organization, the way you recruit and retain staff, the way you work and build relationships and the circle of trust, that sort of thing. So start looking for ways that you can be proactive. And you don't have to be the hand of the CISO, as the analogy is. Even whatever your role is in your organization, from a SOC level 1 analyst to a hunter to a CISO to a deputy CISO, there's something that you can do to be proactive. Make right steps. When it comes to 2017, maybe it's an incubator. You're starting to have some ideas there. Do that. Stop investment. All of you, before any big 750, if you look at appliance deals typically for a Fortune 500 company, they're usually over $1 million. Depending on firewalls, sandboxes, blah, blah, blah. Don't invest any more money in new technology without evaluating every single piece of technology that you have in your environment and how useful it is. If it sucks, pressure the vendors to drive the price down on it. Don't renew it. Look for alternatives. It would be much better to throw out a piece of tech that's not working and use that money for training staff, recruiting staff, and having a strategy there. But a moratorium on new investment until you feel like you're going to spend the money well, because the bobs are going to come in and say, what would you say you do here? And that could be you start yelling about how you're a people person and you work with a developer, that's not going to be where you want to go. And then the last one is probably the most important recommendation: would be try some burnt ends. If you've never had a burnt end and you're not a vegetarian, if you are a vegetarian, a burnt end might make you go back to meat. Perhaps it's just so good. Best bite of barbecue out there. So if you haven't had one, they have them here. They come out of Kansas City. They're with brisket. We have them in Texas too, but I don't discriminate against barbecue. I pretty much like all meat. I have no problems there. So I'm going to load the slides up to my speaker deck site. There's my Twitter handle. So I'm really active on Twitter. Maybe too active sometimes. And then I guess we've got probably, 5 minutes or so for questions as well. Kyle.
How do you feel about pork versus beef barbecue?
I like to eat, if I'm in Texas, I want beef, because that's what we do. Brisket, right? If I'm in Georgia, if I'm in Nashville, I gotta have pork. I had pork yesterday, I didn't have brisket here, so I like to do what people are known for.
The basics.
The basics, barbecue basics. They're easy to do. Although I'm not a huge fan of sauce. I like to actually enjoy the meat, and then try the sauce afterwards. Any non-barbecue related question? Well, I know we're at the end of the day, and I'm standing between you and drinks. limited drinks. Remember, moderation, moderation. So thank you for your time. Paul, thanks for having me here.